Hello, my loves. I am hopping on to record this video because I feel that many of us may be experiencing something this week that we may be seeking to understand what is happening. When I come to remind you that sometimes we don't need to seek, we just need to be in experience. However, after spending a week, not the full week, but a few days this week in this energy myself and experiencing it and being with it and feeling it, as I've come through the other side of it, this morning I received a message, a download that I would like to share that may shed some light and may ease your minds, as if you're someone who is experiencing this. So if you're not, that's okay. We know that we're not all going to experience the same thing at the same time. But I feel that for a lot of us, I know for myself and for a few other people that are in my community and client circle, that there's been a lot of feelings of loneliness, of separation, of disconnection, where we're not feeling connected to ourselves, connected to consciousness, connected to whatever the case may be, feeling separate, isolated, lonely. Even if you have people around you, that there is people reporting feeling this energy. And I know I was feeling it, and it's something that I have felt on and off my entire life, but I have really spent the last couple of years enjoying my alone time, enjoying being with myself, that it doesn't happen or very long. And when it does, I usually know that I'm disconnected from myself. But it felt much deeper. And as a grid worker, I often will have my emotions intensified if the collective is going through it as well, or I will feel it because of the collective, right? And I will have a detachment that I know that it's not mine. But in this case, that energy also lived in me, and so it just intensified my own feelings of disconnect and separation and loneliness. So why is this happening? Why are we feeling this way? So the guides came in this morning and they said that we basically collapsed a bunch of timelines. Now, oftentimes we will know this or see signs of this when the Schumann resonance shows black, meaning there's no register. And the reason why is because there's been a literal collapse of energy, and the energy is having to return and be rebirthed, come together. There has to be a culmination of the energy to restructure and reform and solidify the new timeline. And so we are in the process of that as we speak, which is a pretty powerful thing. And I'm sorry, I'm speaking really fast, but when I'm channeling the Arcturians, it kind of comes in really quick. So I'm just going to take a breath. Whew. My channeling has kind of gotten a little bit stronger and bigger, so I'm learning to re-regulate the new amount of flow that I have coming through. So I appreciate your patience with this. Okay, so returning to the guides came through and they said that we went through a timeline collapse. And I'm paraphrasing, I'm not speaking verbatim, just so you're aware. But we went through a timeline collapse, and what happens when that happens is all the energy basically returns into source, and a new timeline is they're using the word accumulated. I'm not sure I'm saying that right, but a new timeline is formed, right? So pieces are brought together and there's a restructuring that kind of happens. And as I mentioned in September's energy update, this month is a month of integration and restructuring. So it's a month of reflection, rest, play, and restructuring, reprogramming. So that means that we take new actions and we have new behaviors based upon the wisdom that we received from all of the energy that we went through in August. Now, everybody will experience this at different times throughout the rest of the year, not just September. This will actually play out through the rest of the year because it depends on how much space you had inside of you. So as all of these updates came in August, all of these new frequencies, they kind of pile up, right? So again, I use the reference of a cell phone. If you have a cell phone update, you have what do they call it? New operating system update, whatever they call that, right? So I have an iPhone, so let's just say it's iOS 16 is ready to update. Imagine, we're just gonna kind of rewind and bring this in again. Imagine if you had 1,000 of those that came in. So you might be able to do the first 15 or 20 updates, but then you're gonna max out and you're gonna run out of space where you feel like you've hit capacity. And once that happens, you start to get overwhelmed because it feels like so much. And then you feel even more overwhelmed because you're surrounded by all of this energy that's waiting for you to make space. And so it creates a pressurizing that can sometimes cause a tower moment, or for our world to collapse, or for the energy that needs to break because we won't let go of something that's happening, right? Or we won't let go of a density or an old programming or an old wound or a belief, whatever it is. So the pressure comes in so strong that helps us break that energy sometimes. And that's why tower moments, I'm using the tarot reference of a tower moment, are never a bad thing. They're always, everything is always happening for you anyway. So it's really important for us to hear that. So some of you, I know for me, I have a pile up of updates. And so I had a ton of awarenesses and a ton of huge quantum leaps in August. It was a very powerful month for me, but I hit my capacity too. And so I'm having to make space. And so this past week, I just shared in the YouTube membership, the Cosmic Community, what I have been going through this week, and you know how it shifted, and the channeled information that came through to help me shift and all of that. But I've been going through it too, and the part of that that I didn't talk about really was what I'm here to talk about with you, is the loneliness, the feeling of separation or disconnect that felt so intense. And I was really struggling to understand. I was seeking understanding as well. Why am I feeling this way? Like I'm perfectly fine alone. And not that I don't want a relationship or like being around friends. I mean, that's not the case, but I'm not afraid of being alone. I don't mind it. And so, but it was really deep, and I felt it very deep in me. And so it makes sense, right? I understand now that guides have brought this through once, but it didn't come through until I accepted it. So as soon as I surrendered and accepted the feeling, you know, I woke up this morning and I had, you know, the guides waiting to bring these messages through for me. My head was full and I had to sit and process and, you know, receive the information. So I want you to know that if you're feeling this, that it's because of this timeline collapse, and there's a timeline restructuring. And this is a really good thing. I did not see this happening. It wasn't something that came through on the original update, and it makes sense with what we're doing, right, collectively. So if there's enough people collectively doing this work, right, making the space inside of us themselves, accepting those densities, which means that they are collapsing that energy and crystallizing it. So remember, ascension is the process of carbon going to crystalline. Our density, our human-based bodies, and all of our wounds, all of our ancestral lineage, all of the trauma, all of the programming is carbon-based. So we are moving and evolving the human vessel from carbon to crystalline. And we have seen that in the evolution of our children and how sensitive they are. And this is why we have these evolutionary shifts in our food systems and in our technology. Everything has to be exposed, everything has to be cleaned up, everything has to be restructured. So we are beginning that restructuring process, and I almost feel they're giving me this feeling like we're ahead of schedule. We're ahead of schedule on this restructuring, because this really is a huge ray of hope, that we should be feeling. So the more we see exposed in the collective, the more we see out there is a good thing, because darkness cannot perceive itself. Only light can do that. So the more that gets exposed, the more ick we see is a beautiful thing, because that means that there is that much more light on the planet exposing it so that we can address it. So it isn't about blaming or shaming. It isn't about you did this, what are you going to do about it? It's about coming together, synergizing, uniting, and saying, What can we do to fix this problem so that it never happens again? How can we improve the situation? The old system is not working. We need a better system, one that's going to be cleaner, healthier, more efficient for everybody, for us, for the planet, for the cosmos, for everyone. So I really wanted to come on and share this tiny little update because we are really in powerful energies. I'm feeling that we have about a week or so more of restructuring that's going to be happening energetically, but we're going to be seeing, remember, we are in a physical plane. So everything that has been physically manifested in the old systems has to be exposed. We have to accept what is, right? We have to quit fighting about it and choose to do something about it and make it better. And then for that to happen, we have to come together. So this is going to take a while. It's not going to happen in a month. It's not going to happen in a year. It's going to take some time. But the more of us go through our own personal restructuring, where we go into radical acceptance of our states of being, of our emotions, and choose differently, right? Go through that acceptance, by going into the pain, just as much as we go into the pleasure, we find the prize. The prize is always within. The metaphor for that is everywhere. The prize is always inside. So the more that we're able to do that and do our own work and create that space, the more that we will see that manifested and mirrored back in our collective reality. It will take time, though. So don't lose hope. Don't give up. Remember that as we be the change, we will see the change, okay? Because believing is always seeing. Even if you believe that seeing is believing, that is still a belief. So believing is always seeing. So you have to believe that there is a new way possible. You have to believe that this is happening for us. You have to believe that we can unite and come together. And we need to remove the judgment of who's to blame or who should take care of it, and decide to come into forgiveness and compassion and say, let's rise. Let's rise. Let's do it together. Let's come up with a new way. If it was perfect, what would that look like? What would the result be? And how would that feel like in my body? We have to start showing up differently, and that is part of the restructuring of September. Our reality is a hologram. And I know this is really hard for a lot of people to understand. Believe me, there are days where I'm like, F this hologram. And, our human parts of us fight and resist that knowing. But we are walking projectors. And when there's enough of us projecting a certain frequency, we will begin to see, and sustaining it. That's the important part. They're reminding me. Sustaining that frequency. When there's enough of us sustaining that frequency, we will start to see the new realities being built and restructured. And that's beginning to happen. But before that can fully take place, and because of the fact that that is happening, we are going to start to see a ton of things to take into another level of exposure, of things breaking down, of things not working, so that they can be addressed and fixed. But we each have to not focus on the world stage. We have to focus on what we can control, and that is ourselves. So your focus needs to be on how can I be the change? Behind closed doors, when no one can hear you and no one can see you, are you being the change? Are you doing what you know you need to do, what you should be doing for your own evolution? Are you practicing self-love and self-compassion and radical acceptance? Are you listening to the things that aren't working in your life and choosing differently in spite of the fear? Are you choosing to break the cycles and patterns and reprogram those limiting beliefs? So this process is going to be unfolding in September. And again, it's gonna be unfolding throughout the end of the year, and probably beyond that for a lot of people, right? It depends on how much you fight and resist what is. And trust me, I have my moments. So I wanted to come in and share. So if you're feeling lonely, feeling disconnected, you are feeling separate, maybe even a little depressed, no, it's because there was this timeline collapse. And so anything that was associated with those timelines, right, and those energies, decisions you, paths you might have taken, decisions you chose, another way on, boundaries that you've placed, the more you have defined and become aware of what it is that you do want and what it is that you do want to feel and what you do want to experience, the more those other things now have to go away. So we kind of feel that as almost grief, as a death inside of us, like something has been lost or separated or disconnected, detached from us. And so we're feeling that. But know that we are in the process of restructuring, each and individually, and that's going to start showing up in our world collectively. So I hope that this update is what you needed to hear, and I will see you next time.